The brutal war on drugs between law enforcement and drug cartels is a fight that's been going on for decades. Here we look at some of the largest drug seizures ever made in history. Number 9. The $200 million meth raid, Mexico. In 2006, United States authorities seized over 20 tons of pseudoephedrine, an over-the-counter cold medicine used in cooking meth. It led to a year-long investigation that traced the substance all the way to Mexico City. With enough intel gathered, Mexican and U.S. law enforcement worked together to conduct a large-scale drug raid in Mexico City in March of 2007, which resulted in the confiscation of more than $200 million in U.S. currency from meth producers. It is considered the largest drug cash seizure in history. The seizure also revealed an enormous network of illegal drug trade that not only linked Mexico and the US, but also reached as far as Asia. One of the key criminals caught was Zhenli Ye, a Chinese businessman who gained infamy following the operation. Born in Shanghai, China in the early 1960s, Ye later moved to Mexico to run a pharmaceutical company, which he made into a front for illegal drug trade. He supplied Mexican drug cartels with chemicals and substances required to make methamphetamine, making himself insanely rich in the process. Ye's luxury villa was found to be housing $207 million and a great amount of gold bullion coins and jewels of unknown value. His assets were seized and he is currently under incarceration. Number 8. The $250 million hashish seizure, Afghanistan. June 2008. Afghan police make one of history's biggest drug seizures following a successful raid in Kandahar. A whopping 260 tons of hashish was discovered, hidden deep in trenches and bunkers in the country's southern province. No previous drug seizure has ever come close to the amount of narcotics found here, which is comparable to the weight of 30 double-decker buses. The drugs were reportedly being used by Taliban forces to fund their armed struggles against the current Afghan government and Western forces. The enormous drug seizure supposedly crippled their finances greatly, making it harder for them to purchase weapons. With the help of British forces, 2 Royal Air Force bomber planes were brought in to destroy the underground bunker completely, together with its 260 tons of hashish. However, the fight against narcotics in the war-torn nation is far from over. Afghanistan's main drug problem is actually opium, not hashish. Thousands of tons of poppy plants are grown without regulation by locals every year, enough to be refined into hundreds of tons of heroin. In 2015, Afghanistan produced about 66% of the world's opium, mainly in the form of heroin, which is exported and sold illegally. Number 7. The $300 million MDMA seizure, Australia. In 2008, a drug smuggling syndicate attempted to smuggle 4.4 tons of ecstasy into Australia, which had a total estimated street value of $300 million. Drug smugglers are known to get very creative when smuggling drugs into other countries. Sometimes they dig tunnels or hide packages inside their bodies, but in this case they used tomato tins. 3,000 tomato tins were emptied and packed with ecstasy before being shipped in containers scheduled to arrive in Melbourne. Australian customs managed to intercept the shipping, but decided to let it through in order to track down the entire drug syndicate. The contents of the tins were replaced with a chemically inactive substance, and police had the shipping container monitored. The investigation eventually led them to a house, where police swooped in and had 17 people arrested as a result. Australian police cited the operation as a great achievement, as it uncovered one of the country's major illegal drug suppliers. The investigation also identified a money laundering operation worth over $50 million. Number 6. The $360 million cocaine seizure, Colombia. In May 2011, Colombian police seized an enormous amount of cocaine in the hull of a ship in the port city of Cartagena, which was bound for Veracruz in Mexico. The suspects had carefully mixed 12 tons of their stash with brown sugar, thinking that it would fool authorities. Unfortunately, sniffer dogs were being used, and they alerted their handlers to the presence of the drugs. Lab tests further proved the suspicions, revealing that the large shipment of brown sugar was indeed laced with cocaine. Among other things seized along with the drugs was $2.8 million in cash that was supposed to be used in a separate deal, believed to be payment for a previous drug delivery. It is one of the largest hauls of cocaine seized in Colombia, and the drugs are believed to belong to the Rastrojos, one of Colombia's largest and most powerful drug cartels. They are known for being a large exporter of drugs to Central America and Mexico. Colombian cocaine is now mainly sold in Mexico, where it would then be smuggled across the northern border to be sold at a higher price in the US market. Number 5. The $500 million cocaine seizure by U.S. Coast Guards. March 18, 2007. The United States Coast Guard stops and boards a Panamanian ship after it was spotted by an aircraft in the Pacific Ocean just off the coast of Panama. The 330-foot-long vessel named Gatun was heading north towards the United States when it was stopped by the Coast Guard's high-endurance cutter, and upon investigation was revealed to be carrying 765 bales of cocaine hidden inside 2 shipping containers, weighing approximately 20 tons, and with a market value of $500,000. All 14 members of Gatun's crew were apprehended, having failed their clever attempt to smuggle drugs across international waters in plain sight. They were escorted back to Panama together with the ship to be processed for legal action. The operation is considered the biggest maritime drug seizure ever, surpassing a previous one made in 2004 aboard a ship called the Lina Maria. It is fortunate enough that the US and Panama share a maritime agreement, because without it, American Coast Guards would have been denied access to the ship while it was at sea, and the discovery would not have taken place. Number 4. Tranquilandia Laboratory, Colombia, $1.2 billion. We can't talk about drug busts without mentioning the legendary drug lord Pablo Escobar. In 1983, his drug manufacturing complex, known as Tranquilandia, was discovered in the jungles of Colombia and was subsequently raided the following year by the Colombian National Police with assistance from the United States DEA. The massive complex boasted 19 separate laboratories, an independent water source coming from the Yari River, and an electrical system, along with living quarters for all the lab workers to stay in. It also featured 8 private airstrips for flying in processing materials and to fly out the manufactured cocaine. The place was discovered when the DEA placed satellite tracking devices on a large shipment of ether, one of the major chemicals used in the manufacturing process of cocaine, which was ordered by one of Escobar's known associates. The ether was followed from New Jersey all the way to the jungles of Caqueta, Colombia, until it reached its final destination, Tranquilandia. The entire complex was destroyed by Colombian authorities, along with 13.8 tons of cocaine valued at $1.2 billion. Number 3. Captagon pills seized in Saudi Arabia, $1.6 billion. Captagon is a trade name of an amphetamine widely consumed in the Middle East and almost unknown elsewhere. The drug exists in pill form, with its main ingredient being phenethylene, a synthetic psychostimulant substance. For years now, Captagon pills have been linked with all sides in the Syrian civil war and may be one of the things fueling the fury of the radical ISIS militants. The drug produces a kind of euphoria and energetic feeling, providing the soldiers with the physical energy needed to keep fighting. In 2010, a massive seizure of Captagon pills was made in Saudi Arabia by authorities. According to reports, over 8 million narcotic pills worth $70 million in total had been seized. Through a close collaboration between Saudi and Turkish law enforcement, the criminal network was uncovered even further, leading to raids in Turkey where 30 tons of supply material was found. That amount is enough to produce 200 million Captagon pills, with a market value of $1.6 billion and enough to serve each Saudi citizen 7 times. Saudi Arabia enforces some of the harshest criminal laws in the world, and drug traffickers are regularly put to death. This, however, does not seem to curb criminal activity, and Saudi Arabia alone accounted for 28% of all global amphetamine seizures in 2006, much of it from the Captagon market. Number 2. The $4 billion heroin seizure, San Francisco. The record for the world's largest heroin raid ever belongs to the 1991 bust in San Francisco, California. A large shipment of China White, as they called it, was on its way to a warehouse in a San Franciscan suburb called Hayward. The half-ton heroin supply had allegedly made its way across the world, coming from Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar. Unfortunately for the smugglers, custom officials discovered the contents of the shipment in a port in Oakland. 1,000 pounds of heroin packed in bricks covered in birthday wrapping paper were seized, with an estimated overall value that reached a whopping $4 billion. Close to $1 billion in cash was also seized, together with the bank accounts of all suspects involved in the crime. So much heroin was lost by the drug traffickers that day in San Francisco that if sold, every person in the city would have been able to take 2 average doses. Number 1. The $6.9 billion cocaine seizure, Los Angeles. September 28, 1989. One of the largest drug busts in American history is conducted in Los Angeles, California. After a year of investigation by a joint operation between the DEA and the Los Angeles Police Department, agents proceeded towards an unguarded 3,500 square foot warehouse in the San Fernando Valley, broke its $6 padlock, and made an incredibly large drug seizure that made international headlines. The criminals were found to have ingested ingeniously been concealing cocaine in concrete fence posts inside the secret hideout. Metal tubes were also hidden inside the posts, which contained more of the drugs. In all, authorities seized over 21 tons of cocaine, all wrapped in bricks inside brown cardboard boxes, totaling about $6.9 billion in street value. Piled together, they formed a stack about the size of 2 yellow school buses. Millions of dollars in cash were also recovered at the scene. 7 people were arrested and charged for illegal drug trafficking. The warehouse manager, James Romero McTague, was given a life sentence without parole, with the judge citing his crime as one of the most horrendous ever committed against the American people. The reason that makes this international airport so dangerous and unique at the same time is the presence of a public beach located right before the runway. When planes land and take off, the jet blasts would result in strong gusts of wind and sand hitting the people at the beach. A small blunder by the pilot or the slightest plane malfunction could result in serious disasters.